Hello everyone, we're going to do something a little different today, namely a proper side-by-side comparison between the real D-Arts Mega Man X figure and the bootleg on the right there. Starting off with the box itself, you'll notice of course that the little cardboard cutouts that I mentioned in previous videos are indeed present here, and the actual corners themselves on there are going to be a lot duller, while the real one, as you can see, are not only removed like they should be, they're also a lot sharper in the corners there. So that is one major way that, as far as I can tell from all the bootlegs I've seen, that's a common thing. The next, of course, is the missing copyright information, namely in this case a pair of logos. The little kind of dotted box that I mentioned here, or pointing towards, is actually for a 25th anniversary Rock Band logo that would have appeared on the Japanese Rockman X figures. It's not missing here. Well, it's not here because it was not during that initial release period, but this is indeed a real version of the figure, and of course the Bandai logo is pretty self-evident. The next bit here, you have your basic copyright information. Capcom and Bandai are presented fairly easy to see there, so that's the obvious one, while on the bootleg it has a bit of Japanese text, but that's about it. You also notice there's a little bit of a difference here, and actually we're going to make point something I mentioned in a previous video. You can see from here not only the cutouts in the back there, but also the shiny cardboard box that would have been present, while on the bootleg, well, the cutouts are still in there and there's no such box. So that's another way to make it a little stand out, even without looking at without opening the package proper on there. Moving on to the next angle, let's look at the bottom of the box in this case. This one's going to be a lot more obvious in terms of differences, namely because the top one has a lot more general copyright information, denomination logo on there, as well as safety information, and the bottom one is literally just a cropped blurb of it. As you can see from the top, there's literally just the one little segment on there that's been cropped out, no UPC code, no nothing on the fake one. In terms of the sides, for the most part, other than some print issues, which I'll make a little more note of later, they're pretty much the same. It's just some general color issues. The back, of course, is a little more evident. Once again, we have a mirror case of the cutouts on the box being different. One has been properly removed, the other one and the fake one here, not so much. But probably the biggest differences between the back here, aside from that little those little die cut bits, that's the proper term I should have been using this whole time, is that there is a lot of color difference in here. Namely, the fake one is a lot more heavy on the blue tones than the real one, and just the print quality is a lot more fuzzy. So it's particularly noticeable around the letters, which I'm making good note of here. Generally, the fake one is going to be a lot blurrier just because there's a lower DPI in the print. The real one is a lot sharper. I recorded this a little bit afterwards, is that actually on the real one, there's one more little bit about the machinations on there, namely a link to the website and a little more about the D-Arts that won't appear on the fake. Alright, comparing once again, here's the inside of the box here. Real one is on the left, fake one is on the right, of course. The real one, on the back of the little cardboard box I was talking about, has the instruction pamphlet. This basically is a little bit that tells you how to interchange the arm bits, how you can interchange the leg bits, which will come into play especially when you're mixing around with the full armored X figure. In terms of the effects themselves, you can see there's a definite difference in quality here. Namely, the real ones here, starting with the charge shot, they're going to be using a lot better in terms of hue and such. It's a more noticeable green. Let's put a proper side-by-side comparison. Not only is it a better hue of green, there's just more color there, it's a better translucent figure, or a translucent piece for one, and it's actually two separate bits. The little bit that's closest to the buster is detachable in the real one, while in the fake one it is actually casted one bit, so it's not as usable, just to mention on there. Now moving on, I'm just going to correct myself from an earlier video. As it turns out, the buster pieces are in fact the same size as they should be in this particular cast, so they are direct casts on there. It just so happens that the fake one in this case is a little more translucent. Once again, they don't use enough paint hue on there or tint in order to get the job done, and it just doesn't fit as well because they smushed the whole thing together. It's more noticeable on the bottom there. So technically the casting was correct, but the application was done wrong. Next issue, or the next thing I want to look at, is the faces in this case. The key difference between the fake faces and the real faces is that on the fakes, the stickers or whatever decals for the eyes are placed physically too low on the faces, so they're a good millimeter or two off in their application. And the other thing is, because whatever they were using on there, basically they're a little thicker than they should be. What this means is that, especially around the bottom of the eyes, the white decal on the fake figures will stand out a lot more than the real one, and everything's going to be slightly off alignment, so If you're into perfection, that's gonna bug you. In terms of the hands, they could have used some more cleanup in terms of casting, but they're okay-ish. They're functional at the very least. But the biggest issue I have here is that one little bit I'm pointing at there is the missing buster attachment on the bootleg, which is the reason why I can't use any effects on the bootleg. Lifting up the real one, just kind of take a look. There are seam lines present throughout the figure, but they're going to be a lot more subtle. Everything is a lot more clean, well-fitting, as it should be in this case for the real version. Everything's got the figure itself has a nice heft onto it, and the red gem bits are pretty nice and apparent. They're pretty flush as well. They're exactly where they're supposed to be. Moving back to the fake figure, of course, you can definitely tell even from looking at it, things are slightly out of alignment there. The gem definitely isn't where it should be. It's definitely on the inside. The seam lines are a lot more open and noticeable in this face, and probably the one weird bit I did notice here at the bottom here is it actually has a Capcom / Bandai trademark mentioned on the bottom of the boot there, which that seems like a curious detail to carry over because that also appears on the real figure, which leads me to believe that at least some of these parts might actually have been factory rejects from the real factory and just kind of got reused here for one reason or another. So it might be more than just having the original molds handy. Speaking of which, just point out there, yes, you can probably notice the neck was the wrong color on the real one. The real one uses kind of the same kind of shinier plastics used for the sort of joints and such. Well, the fake one actually has a bit more of a rubbery texture. It's actually closer to the plastic used for the masks in this case, or the faces in this case. So that does stand out a bit. And generally speaking, a little correction here. As it turns out, the shoulder bits, or the bits just below the shoulder cuff there, they are a different color in the real version too, but in this case, it's more so noticeable in the bootleg. It's actually an even lighter tone than it should be. I found it a little weird. It should be about the same color there, but it isn't, so what do you know? Taking one last look at the figure, or specifically how they handle certain joints. The fake one, as you can clearly see on the right there, has an issue where the joints have either been poorly inserted or in fact kit bashed from another figure to the point that they're actually too large to fit where they're supposed to go. So especially when they tend to fall out, I find the knee ones are the worst one in this case. They're a pain to get back into the legs proper at this point. So with that in mind, what I would honestly say, if you're looking to pick up the bootleg, you just have to keep in mind that really you should be paying a few less dollars than what I got them at. If you can get sub 20, that's great. Anything more than that, especially anything 30 or 40 Canadian like I've seen on the website, that's way too much for this figure. And while you can use this stuff for customization, expect to have to do a lot of work in order to fix the joints to get them to work like they should. And unless you modify the tip of the buster, you can't use the effects. So that's just something to keep in mind. Well, thanks for watching. Catch you in the very next video. See you for now.